After putting pen to paper on a deal that would earn him $77 million over the next 5 years as a Detroit Tiger, Eduardo Rodriguez did not show out in his first campaign in the Old English D. After his 6 years in Boston, where he had a 1.10 ERA+, a 4.16 ERA, 3.83 FIP, and a 14.3 B-WAR, and better than average per nines and over 850 innings pitched, he would drop to a 94 ERA+, 4.05 ERA, 4.43 FIP, and decrease in per nines, including a career low K per nine, resulting in his first sub-1 WAR since his second season, which was also a career low. However, through 8 starts this year, Eddie has a sub-2 ERA, including 8 shutout innings against the Mets, and a career low in hits, home runs, and walks per nine, while still having a lower K per nine than he did as a Red Sox. This year, though, his ERA has gone down from 4.05 to 1.57. His whip has come down by 5.36, and he has improved all of his per nine stats. This seems to come from many different aspects of play. First, I want to see how his pitch selection on the mound changed. While he is still utilizing a slider about 4% of the time, he has increased the amount of fastballs, cutters, and changeups while reducing his sinkers. His fastball usage is up 3.8%, using it 39.5% of the time, and has resulted in 5.7% more whiffs, 11.4% less hard hits, and 9.6% more strikeouts. And that really seems to be the through line with his improvements this year. As a whole, he has endured far less hard hits, as hitters' hard hit rate against Eddie dropped 8.2%, which sets him the 91st percentile in that stat. Hitters are whiffing 4.9% more and barreling up the ball 3.3% less. I also mentioned that he's throwing his cutter more too. It's his second most used pitch at 25.9%, and the hard hit rate on his cut is down 2.8%. Whiffs are up at 11, which has led to 8.6% more Ks and a 131 point drop in batting average against it. The mix of these two fastballs, one with cut, gives him the ability to keep hitters on their toes, even in fastball counts. Batters are seeing more of his change too, 1.9% more, as it takes over as his tertiary pitch at 18.1% of his pitch mix. He's seen a dramatic rise in effectiveness on that pitch, as it's currently 8 runs more valuable this year, jumping in run value from 9 to 1. He gained almost an inch of movement on it and is seeing 5.9% more whiffs, 9.8% less hard hits, 7.9% more Ks, and a 121 drop in WOBA. With the increase in his other pitches, I wanted to see why he's using his sinker less. It was his third most used pitch last year, but fourth most seen now, dropping almost 7% in use down to 12.7% usage. Interestingly enough, though, it has made the pitch more effective. It improved his run value from 3 to a neutral 0, dropped opponents' WOBA 117 points, and dropped hard hit rate by 3.7. While the whiff rate went down immensely by 7.8%, he is seeing 5.1% more strikeouts and a batting average that dropped 37 points. The use of his slider dropped a measly 0.3%, but is more effective in the small sample size. It's got a 5 run value improvement from 4 to -1 and a 30.3% decrease in hard hits, as well as a slight improvement in movement. He has also improved on throwing strikes. Former Twin in Baseball Today co-host Trevor Plouffe had this to say about him in an episode last week.
He just is kind of relentless with how he pitches. You know, he has taken I'm looking for a word now. I can't figure it out. He's filling the zone up, and he just gets ahead of hitters and makes you defensive when you feel like you should be offensive against them.
Plouffe is very right about how relentless he is. His first pitch strike rate has increased almost 3%, and he is behind in the count 3.5% less often this year. He has even had a game where he did not have a single 3-ball count at all, where he fanned 10 in 8 innings in a win over Cleveland in Game 2 of a doubleheader. Including the start prior and the following start, he only allowed 1 walk in 21 innings. Over the season, his walk rate has dropped 3.4% from last year too. Not only is he throwing more strikes, he's throwing less meatballs. They've gone down over 2%, and pitches down the middle from Erod have a whiff rate of 24% compared to last year's 18%. This comes from him pounding the edges of the zone with the secondary pitches more often, which is something Tigers president of baseball operations Scott Harris talked about in an interview with MLB Now's Steve Phillips, where Harris had this to say.
You know, when I watch him pitch, it seems like he's ahead in the count to every hitter he faces. He's so good at mixing his pitches, at using all of the shapes on the edges of the zone, at finding a way to go deep in games and inducing a ton of soft contact.
Compound that with an aggressive increase in framing that Tigers catchers have made over the year, and his K rate spiked 6.3%. I do want to give credit to the Tigers' catching. For Eduardo last year, the catching wasn't amazing. Tucker Barnhart caught 74 innings for him, and the two had a 3.65 ERA as a pair with a 7.3 K per nine. The former Gold Glove winner was in the 66th percentile in framing last year and had an impressive 6 blocks above average, a 2 caught stealing above average, and a garbage -8 DRS. The other Tigers catcher last year, Eric Haas, caught 17 innings for him, resulting in a 5.82 ERA and a 6.4 K per nine. He was in the bottom 18% of catchers in framing, top 20 catchers with his 2 caught stealing above average, but his abysmal -11 blocks above average was only better than Yasmani Grandal and MJ Melendez. However, this season, hometown Hammer and Haas jumped to a 1 block above average, an insane 12-point leap. He is an average 0 caught stealing above average though, but just like his blocks, he saw an improvement in framing, slotting into the 83rd percentile, which is a 65 percentile jump or a 5-point increase in framing runs. While he is currently a 0 DRS catcher, that's a big jump from -9 last year. He's caught 16 innings as a battery with Eddie with a better 4.5 ERA and a worse 5.1 K per nine. While Haas has made quite the defensive improvement, the Tigers did not bring back Barnhart from last year. They instead get the iconic Cowboy Rake Jodgers back from Tommy John surgery. As of writing, Jake Rogers has a 62-point higher OPS plus than Barnhart and 31 more plate appearances this year in 2023. Rogers' stash isn't the only thing looking good behind the plate though. His defense has also been slick. With Rodriguez, they have a .25 ERA and a 31% K rate in 35 2/3 innings this year. Jake has 1 caught stealing above average and an average 0 blocks above average, a 3 DRS so far, and is in the 92nd percentile in framing, currently tied 4th among catchers in framing runs. I really attribute this increase in defensive catching prowess to new catching coach Tim Fedorowicz, who was signed in January and has a 6 blocks above average himself in the 2 years it was calculated during his career. Back to Eduardo, the bats he's missed aren't the only ways he's getting outs. Looking at where hitters are putting the ball when they do make contact, and you can see quite a bit of plays for the shortstop. While he got off to a slow start offensively, Javier Baez has been the true Almago at short with a 3 DRS so far and a 6 outs above average, which is only bettered by Josh Rojas of the Diamondbacks and Pittsburgh's Cabrian Hayes, who both have 7. Hitters' BABIP has decreased 72 points. On top of that, the Tigers' outfield is tied 3rd in outfield DRS. He has also made himself far better against left-handed hitters. Last year they hit well against the southpaw with a 908 OPS, but that's not the case this year. This year it's been sliced to a 352, a drop of 550 points. Righties also have an OPS against him that dipped, though not as big, at 159 points. With runners in scoring positions, he's K'd 27.3% of batters compared to last year's 14.4, and batters' OPS went down 283 points with runners in scoring position. He has also improved in what was his worst innings from last year, being the 1st, 3rd, and 7th. He hasn't allowed an earned run in the 1st, 5th, 7th, or 8th this year, and his ERA in the 3rd has gone down by over 5. His worst innings this year by ERA are currently the 2nd and 4th, where he's allowed 6 earned over 18 innings combined. I mentioned his per nines improving across the board. Well, through 9 innings, he's allowing over 3 less hits, 0.5 less home runs, that's with the walls in Detroit coming in too, over 1 more strikeout per 9, and 1.7 less walks, which is half of 22's walk per 9. While a sub-2 ERA really isn't a realistic number to hold, he's been able to lead the Tigers with a 2.3 B WAR, which is second in the MLB for starters, and a 3.1 F WAR. As a Tigers fan, I'm hoping this either continues to be how he trends and we renegotiate to keep him on the team, or that we trade him while his value is high for a respectable package that Al Avila would have never considered. Especially with the opportunity for him to opt out of his contract after the season. Eddie's next game is supposed to be against the Pirates this coming Wednesday, and they are a team hitting well against left-handed pitchers. It'll be interesting to see how he does coming into the 9th game of the season for him. I want to thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of the video by rating it, leaving a comment, or subscribing. I've got ideas for more content in the works, but let me know if there's any baseball topics you'd like to see covered. My name is Ryan, and I am out. Thank you.